Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we are going to be talking about the newest massive YouTube scandal that is going on. Many of you remember the multiple adpocalypses that have happened in the past for all kinds of things, all kinds of controversies on the platform. We've seen the whole situation with PewDiePie and saying the N-word and getting canceled. We've seen the adpocalypse. We've seen multiple times where commentary channels have been wiped through by YouTube. I remember Elsagate, and there's so many of them, man, that it's hard to really keep them all wrapped up, you know what I'm saying? There's just so many different situations that have happened. But last night, another one happened that honestly could have some pretty major implications for the platform if this gets to be big enough, and I think it really could very quickly get to be big enough. There are a lot of very genuine concerns with how people and their content have been treated on YouTube in regards to this situation, and there's also a lot of very valid concerns about what this whole movement could potentially have for the entire future of YouTube. If you guys remember YouTube history, YouTube kind of has this tendency, right, where there's like a major controversy against them and their policing of the platform. And then the next thing you know, right, they're basically creating another adpocalypse. They're overreacting and they're not really fixing the root issue, but instead they're hitting so many unintended people with all kinds of different things. But to kind of circle back around to where this all started, it all started December 26th with a video from the YouTuber Mama Max with nearly 700,000 subscribers called Pick a Side YouTube. The video, in just a few short hours, I mean not even a full day as of me looking at this, has gained Mama Max 8,000 subscribers and nearly 500,000 views. It has nearly 70,000 likes as well, which I'm not gonna lie is quite an impressive amount of likes for a video. The 29.5-minute long video is basically a massive expose against the YouTube corporate platform by multiple different massive creators. I mean, YouTubers such as Some Ordinary Gamers, if you guys know who Mutahar is, it had Anxiety Wars there. The YouTuber Just Stop. They had so many people coming forward and talking about all these different experiences that have come from creators who have documented the stories of basically like pedophiles and predators on YouTube. Unfortunately, YouTube does have a little bit of a problem where creators are pedos and people in the community also are, and you know, there are people who will make videos where they basically document what happened, and it could even be just regular internet figures that aren't YouTubers, right? There are people who dedicate their channels or some portion of their content to talking about these subjects. In fact, I'm actually one of these people. I've probably made close to 24 videos now, just talking about these types of situations, just talking about allegations, especially against content creators or celebrities or whatever it may be. And unfortunately, it appears that people who make that type of content on YouTube are targeted in some way. A lot of creators have had their videos outright taken off of YouTube by YouTube, have been struck down or removed, perhaps even unfairly in most of these situations, as in pretty much a lot of the cases that you're really going to remember or notice or see in these videos and things like that of people talking about this. It's situations where the creator is simply documenting what happened, and they basically get hit for it. And that's what this whole pick a side YouTube thing is all about. It's essentially a call from the creator and fan community of YouTube to corporate YouTube, telling them to either side with creators who are documenting and exposing this type of behavior, or to essentially pick the sides of these horrible, terrible people who are being covered in these videos who are doing unspeakable, disgusting things that not only warrant them being completely removed from these platforms, but also to probably just simply be in jail altogether. So this ended up trending on Twitter, actually. Hashtag Pick a Side YouTube was exploding. I mean, everybody on the timeline was talking about this. And even today, the hashtags keep flooding in and the popularity of this entire thing continues to rise. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be very long before the mainstream media begins to pick this up. Now, part of this entire movement and whatnot was essentially calling upon fellow creators to kind of speak out on this issue and to actually try to do something to solve this problem. Mama Max tweeted out hashtag Pick a Side YouTube, children or pedophiles, and then added Team YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, Philly D, H3H3, Keemstar, Scarce, Moist Critical, Chris Hansen, Shane Dawson, and Corpse Husband. Okay, now these were apparently the creators that were somehow connected to certain things in the past that Max wanted to ask to basically call this situation out to. Obviously, Susan Wojcicki is the CEO of YouTube, and at Team YouTube is the supposedly official Team YouTube Twitter. It's basically just a bunch of bot responses, but this tweet has nearly 23,000 likes and almost 12,000 retweets, and of course the hashtag included in it did go viral. It started trending, and it's still getting a load of tweets. Now, first and foremost, I want to say, obviously, I agree with the message of the video. There is a problem on YouTube with the way that these kinds of people are being it seems targeted in some way for these kinds of videos. However, I feel like part of the issue is actually kind of endemic on YouTube and actually really spans to all types of content. I mean, in all reality, a lot of the situations that people face by talking about these kinds of things are actually situations that virtually everyone on the platform faces in some way, right? In my personal experience, I will say, in the times that I have covered allegations or like people accused of these kinds of things, for instance, like when I covered EDP445 when he got caught, those videos were not taken kindly upon by YouTube, you know? So, for instance, in my situation, those videos, they were demonetized. And I can kind of understand that, right? You know, I can see why advertisers maybe wouldn't want to advertise on a video like that, but the problem is that when videos are demonetized, there's a lot of evidence that shows that those videos are then somewhat suppressed in the algorithm. Meaning that if your video isn't fully monetized, there is evidence that suggests that YouTube's algorithms will show your video less simply because it's demonetized. Which not only hurts the overall impact and reach of your video when you're talking about these kinds of things, but it also extremely heavily discourages creators from talking about these types of things. Obviously, these are things that do need to be talked about by the community. I mean, if somebody in the commentary community comes out and, you know, gets exposed basically for being this kind of shitty, immoral person, that they would legitimately, you know, attempt to or think about victimizing children, I would want to talk about that. I would want to bring awareness to the fact that that person is a fucking asshole and needs to be exposed for these kinds of things. I mean, I feel like most people agree with that. These people should not be allowed to hide in silence. People should not feel intimidated by YouTube to talk about these types of things. What the real problem is YouTube is just so fucking behind and unaware on all of the major issues on its platform. Yes, there is a problem when people try to expose these things and can't. What I will say is it's kind of bullshit that a creator with 40,000 subscribers can have their video literally removed from YouTube because of guidelines or whatever, you know, because YouTube mistakes it for glorifying this type of shit or something. Or the video gets age restricted or demonetized or fucked with in some way by YouTube, right? And it is messed up that that can happen to someone with 40,000 subscribers, but yet every single time something like this happens, the folks over at Business Insider are writing a fucking quick piece about it. They're slapping it behind a premium paywall subscription. So in order to learn what YouTubers are fucking monsters, you have to pay them $5.99 a month or whatever. For some reason, I'm not seeing Business Insider not run ads on this type of content. Where's the demonetization for them? In my opinion, the way that I see it is, if the media is able to report on it and they can make money from reporting on it, then a YouTuber should be allowed to report on it and make some fucking money from it. I mean, if Business Insider, the massive media conglomerate or whatever, can talk about this type of shit with impunity, I don't see why YouTube is going so hard on creators that talk about these types of things. Me personally, I could give a fuck less if these types of videos are demonetized, right? Okay, good, demonetize them. What the fuck ever, okay? I don't care. I'm already at an established point, you know what I'm saying? But also, I'm not being hit as hard as some of these other creators who've talked about these types of things are. And once again, the problem is YouTube is just blatantly incompetent at running their website. They have to know that there's problems like this. I mean, people have been screaming about this on Twitter. People have been screaming that YouTube is being overly strict about all types of shit for years, and there's been nothing done about it. But that's what actually worries me about this hashtag, okay? So hashtag pick a side YouTube. On the surface level, right, you look at that and you're like, yeah, right, fucking YouTube, pick a side, guys. But honestly, I have a problem with how this whole social movement is being run, and let me explain this to you here. So, I agree, once again, with the message. The video was right. I will agree with that. There needs to be something done. YouTube does need to address this in some capacity, but Honestly, I'm starting to get worried about the actual YouTube response, because when you've looked at how this has historically gone down, when people make these large social movements in which, they're demanding YouTube with a hashtag on Twitter to basically take the side of children or pedophiles on their platform, YouTube acts as if they're on the fucking Titanic and the boat's sinking in 6 minutes, and they overreact. And this type of shit creates adpocalypses. Now, you might be saying, oh, Optimus, all you give a fuck about is the money. That's all you care about. What about the kids, man? Once again, I think people should be allowed to talk about this. I don't see why a YouTube video has to be fully demonetized on it, but the mainstream media can write about it with no fucking issue, right? You either don't understand that I'm on your side on that one, or you're just misinterpreting what I'm saying, okay? It's really simple here. YouTube is known for their overreaction, and I don't want to see that happen, because innocent people don't deserve to face consequences from YouTube for doing literally nothing fucking wrong. If anyone should be suffering on YouTube for this issue, it should be the people who are, being predators, being an actual menace, being a fucking problem, being a pedophile, right? Those are the people who need to face consequences. Those are the people who need to face action. A YouTuber who's blatantly just trying to talk about something unrelated doesn't deserve another adpocalypse dropped on their head and their whole fucking income wiped out for the next 4 months because YouTube overreacts because some people they're unrelated to were being pieces of shit. And that's the issue with calling out YouTube. YouTube sees these situations and they don't fucking understand how to respond, okay? Either they don't respond, which is worse than not responding, in the right way, but they either won't respond or they respond too fucking harsh. And I also don't agree with how this whole movement was supposedly spread. These creators and these people were added in this tweet by Mama Max because they hold some sort of value. Of course, people like Philly D and Keemstar and Scarce, they report on these things, and Moist Critical is a champion of the commentary community's voice, and Chris Hansen was known for his show. And Shane Dawson has his chance to redeem himself, right? Like, that's the overall reasoning, I guess, why these people were selected to be tagged, but somewhere in the crossfire of all of this, people who weren't related to the situation at all started getting bombarded, and I'm one of these people. Given my history of content, it was inevitable that I was going to cover this because, once again, I probably have about 24 videos, if not more than that, to be honest. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly. But I have plenty, let's just say, videos in which I'm talking about these situations and I'm exposing these people and I'm talking about these things right alongside everybody else, but I still have had my Twitter mentions and my email flooded with replies telling me to talk about this. And I understand that the vast majority of these people are trying to do a good thing, right? People are trying to spread this message, to bring awareness to this cause, to really try and call on YouTube to make the proper decisions, to make the proper response to this problem. But there's that very loud vocal minority that's going around and legitimately fucking harassing creators and calling them pedophiles if they refuse to talk about this. The entire definition of this story explains perfectly fine why a lot of creators don't cover these things. If you're a YouTuber and your livelihood depends on it, and you look at this type of story and realize that if you talk about it, you're likely going to be demonetized, you may have your video removed, YouTube may not be able to help you if a problem arises because they never help, and you realize that there's so many fucking potential headaches with covering this kind of thing because of how YouTube is basically, if not intentionally, suppressing people talking about these things. When you look at all of that happening, it's very understandable why a lot of these people are too scared or just refuse to talk about these things. Once again, I am not one of these people. I will talk about this shit because I'm established, okay? I can do this. I'll be fine, but there's not always a creator out there like that. And I'm thinking about those small creators on both sides of the end here because everyone deserves to be considered at some point. There are legitimately people going around on Twitter right now telling creators that if they do not make a video talking about this, that they are literally a fucking pedophile. I actually want to show an interaction that Kavos, another commentary YouTuber, tweeted out earlier. You've picked your side. You're part of the problem now. Thanks for the acknowledgement. It gives us the support we need. Kavos responds with, you are unhinged. And then he is blatantly called a fucking pedophile, okay? The thing is Kavos didn't even really do anything wrong. He literally just said the hashtag is cringe, which, by the way, a lot of people have said. I mean, expressly giving YouTube the option to say, hey, we support children, or basically just calling all of them pedophiles, doesn't really encompass the reality of the full situation. It's more or less just blatant fucking incompetence by a billion-dollar company that we've seen for years, okay? I don't think that, there's a big YouTube board meeting where they're like, let's cover up the pedophilia talk. Like, that just doesn't sound reasonable, that just doesn't logically compute. Obviously, there's more to the story, and if provided, YouTube should be able to respond in the proper way. Will they? Completely different story, but they should be able to. But what should also be able to be done? A creator should be allowed to make a decision about their own content, whether or not they want to make a video, or whether or not they agree with how a hashtag is being perpetuated. These people are so mad at the wrong person, okay? We're talking about literally fucking pedophiles, okay? We're talking about actual shitty people who harm people. And you are comparing commentary YouTubers to that if they don't talk, okay? If they don't say something. I understand the you're with us or you're not mentality. I get it. You're trying to rally people together, but instead there's this unfortunate selection of people like this who, instead of bringing people together, are dividing people on the cause more. And it's the absolute last thing that this movement needs if it wants to work. If you go around calling everybody a pedophile who doesn't say exactly what you want them to say the moment you want them to say it, you're going to turn people against your movement. And if you start turning the literal creator community away from your movement, who's gonna spread it more, okay? That's the whole point. People need to chill the fuck out a little bit on people who don't want to talk about this situation. Do I think more people should? Absolutely. But given the literal consequences we've seen laid out and doled out to creators who do talk about these things, it's very understandable why people wouldn't want to. It's very understandable that people would find a hashtag cringe, okay? It's Twitter, right? Everything on Twitter is fucking cringe. Everyone needs to chill out on the wrong people, okay? The wrong people are getting hit in this whole fucking thing, and it's insane to me. For instance, look at this interaction I had on Twitter, okay? Make a fucking video on this. Join us, and don't make the wrong choice. Do you want to protect children, or do you want to let their screams haunt you in your sleep? It's so fucking overdramatic for zero reason, okay? For literally no reason. And these, of course, are people who don't watch my videos. They're literally just being reactionary on Twitter because that's what you do on Twitter, I guess. And yeah, just fucking saying things without any sort of forethought or any knowledge on the situation. And I've been dealing with this since this video came out, through my fucking business email, through my Twitter. I'm sure if I went through my Instagram messages on my account and everything, I'd have messages there I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think me talking about this situation on my channel is gonna quote-unquote protect children. I'm just gonna be honest, I don't think any of these pieces of shit who are doing these things are gonna watch an Optimus video and be like, well, you know what? Optimus finally joined into the talking here, so I guess what I'm doing is actually really wrong. Or what, YouTube's gonna see my video and they're gonna suddenly fucking change? You know how many videos I've made addressing YouTube, telling them to fucking fix problems? And of course, they never get fixed. I've literally had chats with a direct employee at YouTube called a partner manager multiple times. Nothing's ever been done. I see how the Twitter hashtag can be impactful, it can bring widespread awareness, but people are using it to legitimately fuck with people and go after creators. You're literally telling me that if I don't immediately make a video and quote unquote join you, which you're not doing anything by saying anything on Twitter, you've made no video or anything. You're just telling all these creators they need to do something, right? You're telling us if we don't join you, quote unquote, you're a fucking pedophile or you're gonna let their screams haunt you in your sleep. It's just ridiculous things like that. And I don't want to see a good movement like this get fucking hurt by people like this. I understand being upset about stuff like this, right? It's not a fun topic to talk about. It's not something great happening in society. But you don't need to be going after the wrong people for it. You don't need to be fucking with people for the wrong reasons. It's let's focus on the movement here. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below, and until my next video guys, this is Optimus, talking about hashtag pick a side YouTube, and honestly YouTube, fucking do something. Don't do the wrong thing, but actually address this. And signing out.